Hello, my name is Leora, and I am the artist behind Diamonds from the Rough. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, I had a different plan for how I wanted to do my first video for my YouTube channel. This wasn't it. Looking like this, no makeup, no hair done, Game of Thrones t-shirt. But here I am because I had technical difficulties because I'm not good with technology. I'm good at painting though. So here is the very first project that I have ever done for my YouTube channel. And if you would like to see how I did it, please keep watching. This grandfather clock was a Facebook Marketplace find. It's an excellent brand and in perfect working order. All it needed was to be updated and brought into the modern world. Originally, I had filmed all of my prep work with some explanation of what I was going to do. I showed the cleaning, I showed the priming a little bit more, and all of that went away when I accidentally deleted the source material. Oops. Lesson learned. Here I'm just sanding away my excess wood fill, and now I'm going to blow away the dust with my leaf blower. %90 effective. I feel like here it's important to tell you why I started this YouTube channel. I have been painting for about 2 years because I started watching Brushed by Brandy, Brandy Collinborn, and she inspired me to start painting furniture in my own home. Recently, I went to the Daydream Apothecary Masterclass in Florida, and Brandy was one of my instructors. It was such an honor to learn from her. After attending that class, which had 8 different instructors, and I wanted to do a series of projects, and I wanted to have each piece be demonstrating what I learned from each teacher. So I figured that's a great way to start my YouTube channel, and I will do 8 pieces back to back to back, and they're all going to be dedicated to a different instructor. This first one is dedicated to Brandy Collinborn of Brushed by Brandy, and all of her teachings are what inspired what's happening here behind me. Thanks. As you can see, I had already put on 1 layer of primer, but I'm going to add a second coat of Slick Stick gripping primer before I paint. Day 3. The only thing you missed was my creative process, which consisted mainly of staring at it closer, looking at my paint, changing my mind, deciding to use a different one, changing my mind. Mostly just a lot of cursing, wandering, staring, and muttering to myself. Brushed by Brandy was the very first video blog or Pinterest or anything that I saw, and I was like, oh, I love that stuff. She is known for her blending. It's what she does best. She's also big into neutrals. If you know me, which you don't yet, but you will, I love bright colors. I'm going to go with what she would do based on being inspired by her. I'm going to use Dixie Belle's Manatee Gray and Dixie Belle's Sawmill Gravy. And then moving over to another paint brand, we've got the Grateful Dead. And then, because of course Daydream Apothecary was the inspiration, Mossy Cobblestone. It was designed by Wendy Vaughn at Elwyn Cottage, and she is out of Pocatello, Idaho. So this one is clay-based paint. All of these are chalk paints. We're gonna see what happens. I don't know. Now which brush? These are synthetic bristle brushes. I think what I'm gonna go with is probably my Zebra. This has so many bristles per square inch. I'm going to get you in for a close-up. I'm going to spray my brush with water. I spray my piece with a mist of water. Chalk paint and certain pigments in particular are very, very thick. But since they're water-based, you can water them down. I am not going for a perfect coat here at all. We are into what I like to call The awkward teenager stage of any painting project. Braces, glasses, little acne, we've got splotchiness, we've got uneven coverage, we've got brush strokes, dun dun dun. Who cares? All of this is going to be invisible once I finish the second coat. I got an idea. The good idea fairy always strikes right when I'm going in a flow. And I decided I wanted to put a trim around the clock face. My final decision for this whole design concept is an English garden. Using the amazing casting resin. This is the resin that will cast in 10 minutes. So you have to make sure it says cures and turns white in 10 minutes. That's the key. As long as it says that, you got the right stuff. And when it cures, it will be white and look like this. It comes with these two little cups. There's a part A and a part B. And I don't have sensitive skin, but for the sake of the safety people out there that would have my head if I didn't wear my gloves, I will wear gloves. One of the things to keep in mind about the casting resin is that it is a chemical reaction, and it actually does get hot when you're casting. So I just have a third cup. I pour equal parts of A and B, pour it into a third cup. Really can't mess this up. And then you just stir. It starts to turn kind of cloudy, milky white. After about 15 to 30 seconds, it will start to feel warm in your hand, and it'll go back to being clear. And as soon as that happens, you're ready to pour. Actually will start setting up in your cup really fast, so you don't have a lot of time. I always end up with a little bit more than I necessarily want for the mold that I'm doing, so it's always a good idea to have a secondary mold ready to go. Okay, that's all there is to that. Here's the trim piece that I'm talking about. This is the piece that I cast earlier in the evening, and I just bent it while it was still soft. So before the whole 10 minutes had elapsed, I pulled it out of my mold. While they're still bendable, I can get them around those curves. The straight ones are no problem. I can also cut the ends off because they'll be soft enough to cut with scissors or with an X-Acto knife. So I pulled this one out of the mold a little bit early, and it's still very flexible. I'm going to use the Tight Bond Quick and Thick. Then I need something to stand on. Short people problems, yo. So when I measured this, this is 1 inch wide, and this border is just a smidge over 1 inch wide. So I'm just trying to shove it in there a little bit. And here's the final result. The gray ones are molds that I had cast previously and was able to heat up and use again in this project. This is how I make my plans. I can't draw for anything, so let's pretend this clock looks like the clock I just have here. There's like the little squiggly lines, those are my flower molds. I've got my transfers, and then over here I've got my colors. This is a plan, and plans are meant to be ripped in half. And it's about to get really ugly again, because this is the beautiful swan period after puberty, 10-year reunion where you look amazing. That's where we're going with this one. So stay tuned. On to the blending coat. Brandy tends to use one color for each brush. So that's what I'm going to do. For the blending that I'm going to do right now, I'm going to use a brush for the dark gray and for the light gray. When I do my second coat of blending, that's when this guy's going to come in. Oh, this is interesting. This gray has a very purple undertone. This is where you need to repeat to yourself. Do not panic. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Here is where we are laying down our color to find out, how do we like it? How do these colors go together? Do we want to move the placement? Do we like the transition areas? This color reads extremely lilac, very purple compared to this gray. In my vision, it was just a little bit darker, so I'm going to make an adjustment. I want to try something different. So I'm going to try some Dixie Belle Gravel Road. And brush on my darker color. And then just back and forth. Back and forth. And go across. You can add more water if you need it. But that is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. It's darkening it all the way across there. And then when it dries, I'll see how I like it. This project had a lot of different transition areas, a lot of different ledges, open doors, curves. So it was interesting to try and get a blend that worked around all the different shapes. Down here at the bottom, I am blending multiple different shades of the gray. I'm going to work in the mid-tones as well as the highlighting. Now all I have to do is get these feet, because when it's up on its feet, I can't do it. Otherwise I get paint all over the floor and I can't get into all these details. So I am going to be using a French tip brush. This is a natural bristle brush, and at this point I don't really care what kind of brush I'm using, because around these feet I have to do a lot of mashing to get into the details. And for back here, like, it's a really tight corner, so I'm going to have to use like a smaller artist brush. This is actually a makeup brush. I have to get creative, basically. Daydream Apothecary color. This is that mossy cobblestone that I'm very excited to use. Look at that. This is my first time using a clay-based paint, and I am very excited. You may have noticed that I do not have my water bottle here with me, because I'm going to try and do this without much in the way of water, because water will continually reactivate the clay-based paint. And I did not seal the paint below it, so since it's water-based and not sealed, the paint below it could also start to reactivate. It's dried for 24 hours, but I don't want to give it any excuses to come up. So here's how it looked after I finished blending. Brandy would normally do a much smoother, more seamless blend, but I had a plan. I was going to use transfers that were going to cover up a lot of those transition lines, so you won't see such a harsh differentiation in color. This is exactly what I was going for as the background for the transfers I'm about to lay. I couldn't forget the inside. I had to remove the door and the shelves so I could paint the inside before transfers. Gold Harlequin. Look at that. I can just lay it out, figure out how much I want to use. Where do I want to use it? Do I want the edge that is a partial diamond to be part of it, or do I want to cut it here? This does have handy dandy lines, but since I'm not going to cut them on the lines, I'm just going to cut it right in between the points. Every time you open a tube with a transfer, you're going to get this little brown wooden stick. Or you can get the Redesign with Prima transfer tool, so you can get around corners, because you can take this transfer and I could put it up these corners and around these edges, and I could use this tool to get there. Make sure this never sticks to itself. I have had some disasters. So you see how it's hanging right now? When it's fresh out of the tube and you've never unrolled it before, it can roll back on itself, and once it sticks to itself, you are all done. So be very, very careful of that. Why that happened? This makes a good little ring cup. It's the lid of the Redesign box. All right, I'm gonna take the tool, and now I'm just gonna start laying it out. I use a microfiber cloth. I just wanna go over it with my fingers and a soft cloth, because I want to make sure there are no air bubbles anywhere in here. And there it is, a little bit of shimmer and shine. And that is going to be the backdrop for our next part. Now here was another one of my good ideas at the last minute. I decided to paint over the clock face because the sepia tone just really didn't go with my new look. I used my Cricut in order to print out some vinyl numbers so that I could recreate a clock face around a bed of roses that I had decided to use to form the circle of the clock. I had a hard time filming this since I can only use one hand, so use your imagination. It was very satisfying. And here's what it looked like when I laid all the numbers down on the clock. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. If you would give me a like, subscribe, comment, share, anything at all to help me grow my presence here on YouTube, I would really, really appreciate it. Next week, I will be doing a project inspired by Tanglewood Sue. Look in the description box below, and I will have links to both Brushed by Brandy and Tanglewood Sue so that you can follow them as well and see what I'm going to be showing you. Thank you, and I will see you next time.